some highs, some lows, very, very, very powerful films no matter what. Why don't you each introduce yourselves and tell us how these films came about?
I guess I'm the first victim. David Dibble, Rocks for Sale. This came about because I escaped LA, which I try to do often, but I escaped LA and moved to Durango, Colorado to work on that train. I thought it'd be just like a summer adventure, and so I was a brakeman and conductor on the railroad. So I would see the kids every day, and I thought they were, oh, that's cute, that's like a lemonade stand. And there was one little girl who would run up to me every time I stepped off the train and punch me in the stomach and then run back, and I thought, oh, Silverton, what a great place. But some coworkers I learned worked on that, or they sold rocks as well, and then their parents had sold rocks, and I thought, wow, there's a little more to this. And I learned that there was a city ordinance, and I thought, well, there's a lot more to this. So peer pressure from other friends who said, you should make a documentary. I thought, no, I don't need to make a documentary. But it grew on me, and I finally decided I'll dive in, and maybe I'll make a short little 5-minute film in a couple months and be done. So 5 years later, here it is.
Vanessa?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Martinod. I directed Daughter of Mine, the film that you just all watched. I grew up in Hillsdale, New Jersey, and so I just knew of Joan and Rosemary from a very young age. I was also a Girl Scout in the 90s, so that was when Rosemary D'Alessandro was doing most of her advocacy. That was when the killer was up for parole. It was in the paper so frequently, and my mother and my grandmother would always say, you know, Rosemary D'Alessandro, that woman is incredible. And I did not know them, even though we lived so close to each other. I never crossed paths. I would see the events in town. And years later, when I was looking for something to make a film about, I have to credit my mother for this as well. We would just talk about it. She was like, someone has to make a film about the incredible work that Rosemary D'Alessandro has done and what she went through and Joan went through. And I just reached out to her. She has this incredible foundation called Joan's Joy. And I reached out to her, and she invited me over. And she's in the back right now. I just kind of want to thank her for everything and for allowing me and trusting me to tell her story. And that was about 5 years ago as well. And we had a meal. I met Michael and John, who also appear in the film, her incredible sons. And, you know, they vetted me, and we became great friends, and we got to it. And it was a journey with a pandemic in the middle of it. But I'm so glad that we were able to share her story with you all today, and Joan's story.
Well, we all wish you welcome, and thank you for coming and being part of this. It seems like 5 years is time for filmmaking. It shouldn't be that hard. I have a couple of films I could tell you about that took 5 years. Was COVID the main reason for the 5-year delay, Vanessa, or were there other things that made it, as usual, so difficult?
Well, you know, I would say that we met in 2018. We did some shooting in 2019, and then, yeah, the pandemic just completely put us on hold for pretty much an entire year. We got vaccinated and okayed everything with Rosemary to kind of get it up and running, and obviously had to kind of adjust the film itself. It was like, okay, well, what is this really going to look like? How can we do this safely? As you see, there's a lot of outdoor stuff, which works to our advantage, because that's the way the story takes place in Harriman State Park and things like that. But yeah, the pandemic and, you know, being a full-time filmmaker and having a day job also on the side, it can add up.
And your 5-year story?
That's mostly all my fault. It's literally was a side project I would push very far to the side whenever anything else would come up. And then she'll come back to it like months later, and I'd have hours of kids yelling, "Rocks for sale," and I don't remember what my notes meant, and so I had to get back into it. I actually have to credit COVID for getting me to finish it, because I had nothing else to do. So I finally sat down for a month to get the rough cut, going, and then some other things came in the way, so eventually it got there, but it was the process of finally finishing it for me.
So, do I understand correctly, you're also a model train enthusiast, and so trains have really become a part of your life? Did I see that online?
They've become part of my life, I guess, because I moved there because I kind of wanted to be a kid again. So what's it like to work on a train? And so I did that, and because of being involved with the train world is pretty small, so now I have access to, or semi-access to trains, so they have been in a lot of my films recently, yeah.
Uh-huh. Do we have any questions for the filmmakers? Yes, sir. Hold on 1 second. We're going to get you a microphone. There you go.
Yeah, hi. That was great. My question is, a lot of that footage looked old, so could you address that as to some of the...
Talking to Vanessa or...
No, the
Dave?
rocks. A lot of the footage looked like it was from 70s, 80s.
60s.
60s, so...
Some of it is old, yes. I've got another fellow worker from the train. He was there in Silverton as a kid in the 60s, and that footage was from his dad. A lot of the Super 8 footage. There was another film that I found that someone posted on a community board that they visited Silverton about in the 60s as well, and he had 8mm film of it, so I was able to get a scan of that.
But not a local.
That one was not a local, no. And then there's other film that I shot on Super 8 for other projects of the train, so that was a little bit of cheating. It wasn't old, but it kind of tied in, it fit in well.
Yeah, it's very interesting as filmmakers today, and as all of us today, you can find anything with a couple of clicks. But imagine before there was such serious internet, such easy internet, how long it took us to make films and find things that would bring you to a place where you thought, oh, I'm there. This is modern. I can find this. But no, you had to work very hard. So it's a great advantage today for us to be able to make clicks and for you to find that things on a Facebook page, because there's probably did you find it on a Silverton Facebook page?
That's what it was, yeah. In fact, some other friends saw that. They said, you better go to that Facebook page and look at that. But that was kind of the treasure I was looking for. Where is actual footage of kids selling rocks? They must be, like some Texan must have it on their trip back in the 60s. How do you find that? Even Silverton itself didn't have anything of rocks. I went to the Historical Society to research, and there were no photos of kids selling rocks. So where do I find that holy grail? So
Amazing.
Facebook.
Amazing. Another question. We have a person here.
First of all, thank you both. And thanks to the people responsible for the other two films. One of the extraordinary things about being here is that we, the audience, are asked to stretch in so many directions. We've just been asked to stretch in innumerable directions because of your films. And I wanted to ask Vanessa, you have there a family back there, a brave family, who've also been stretched in all sorts of directions. And how were you, as young professional, able to deal with their strengths? You had to tell them, I've been a filmmaker, you had to tell them what to do, where to go sometimes. How, don't do it now because you're in the shade or whatever it is. How were you able to deal with these emotional giants?
Well, I was so fortunate that Rosemary was really open to me just kind of exploring her story and her life. As far as the material we used, she has an extensive archive. She's often interviewed for news and different reports like that, so she's a little bit of a pro. And I know what we did together was different than what she had previously done. And she was extremely patient with me, and as I was navigating the story and figuring out what I wanted to tell. But as far as me as a director and how I do that with my subjects, or with now my friends Rosemary and Michael and John, I try to really have just a really fleshed out idea of what I want something to look like. I have done verite work in the past, but I really go into a scene or a shoot with very specific ideas of how I want it to look like, how I want it to sound, and then of course it's a documentary, so anything could happen in between. But I try to set the parameters for myself stylistically, and she was very inquisitive, probably more so than previous subjects that I've had, and I would share with her information that I felt was important for her to know, where the camera was going to be, and I think that she just got pretty comfortable having me around the house. Would you say so, Rosemary? Yeah, and you know, my crew is also here. They're all my good friends and amazing filmmakers themselves, and so we just had an amazing, intimate kind of family. There weren't really strangers or people in the house or in the environment. I shot the film myself. I DP'd the film and directed the film, so oftentimes it would be me with the camera, and I always think that that kind of creates more of an intimacy with the subject matter. Instead of having like a really sort of invasive scenario, especially when you're dealing with such sensitive material and topics as of what happened to Joan.
Another question over here. We have two over here. Yes, can we get a microphone up? Okay, hang on 1 second. Stand by. There you go.
I just want to say, like, working with Vanessa, the first time she came to my house, she came with these cookies. And they were from a great place, you know, a Casa del Sol. And I still remember those cookies. And then the next time she came, it's like that was like we were just meeting and greeting the first time. The next time that she came, she brought, because she knew Michael and John, they like all the snacks. Oh, the whole kitchen table was full of all these snacks. And it's funny, that's what I remember. So because of that, I didn't even think of her as being a filmmaker first. I thought of her as a nice person that I was dealing with, you know? So that was good because it was a new experience for us. And, you know, just being here today, you know, with all of you, and being here that you have this festival, and it's the first one, this is, you know, the premiere of Vanessa's, you know, story, is so, it's, it's still not all real to me. And meeting all of you today, I met you down there, and now I'm meeting you, is making it real, okay? Because, you know, just think of seeing yourself on a screen, you know, oh. And then I'm looking at Michael, I'm looking at John, I'm going, oh, look at it. But it's like, but you know, you see, what I love is that Vanessa has chosen our story and is giving us this opportunity. And it's so important that I know I'm, you know, being Joan's voice, because there's a lot of work to do, and there was a lot of work to do. And what it has to do with, I mean, you know, we all can make a difference, really, to make the world better, even though you don't think so, you know? And you all have something, and don't let insecurity take it away, because that's what we need, all that positive energy. So this way, what we do, we get into doing good things like Vanessa is doing, you see? And that's the way we're going to get a world that is going to be more like with wholesome stuff, wholesome values. And then you don't get into revenge, you don't get into hate, but you get into fighting for what you believe in. And that's where, you know, that's what I got that strength and inspiration.
Well, we thank you for your service.
But anyway, that's it. I'm sorry.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi. You referred before to making decisions about what to put in and what to leave out of the film, and I was curious as to whether you had approached the older children to try to interview them, and about your decisions to put some facts about the family, like the father being violent, etc., to mention that and to mention the children, but to not take it further. Like, where did you draw that line?
It's a very good question, and one that I've sort of thought about quite a bit. The older children were not involved in the film. Rosemary does not have contact with them. We kind of were limited by just the elements of it being a short film. Frank had passed away in 2018. The domestic violence aspect of the film were important for me to capture, because it was to show how this man, this violent event that happened in 1973, really did break apart their family. And Rosemary has a new family now, and that is a part of her history and a part of her life. But not only does she have Michael and John, but she has this enormous community of people in the town and the county of New Jersey that comes around her every holiday and every celebration and every event. So I think I kind of looked at the film as the first half is Joan's story and the second half is Rosemary's story. And Rosemary, of course, is our narrator the entire time. But I did try and get in contact with the other children, but it was just not able to make that work. But yeah, Rosemary was our narrator, and I wanted to kind of keep it like a portrait and really personal and tell the entire story from her perspective, the mother, versus like bringing in too many other folks and or even legal professionals and things like that. I wanted to kind of keep it in the personal versus like, the legal.
Thank you. Yes, okay, one last thing. Let's bring wait 1 second, stand by.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did the relatives of the killer remain to live in the house down the street? The grandmother and whoever else?
I believe they actually sold the house not long after. I would have to check my notes, and Rosemary might know, but there have been numerous owners of that house since then, and yeah, there's.
You don't know how long they stayed there?
I don't know, but I don't believe it was very long. The community wanted to, yeah, the community actually did say they wanted to remove the house at one point. Because, look, there's not one person that you speak to in Hillsdale, or honestly, all of Bergen. I don't know if you're familiar with Bergen County, New Jersey. It's where all the malls are. It's pretty much, there's not one person who wasn't around in 1973 who doesn't remember this story. If I bring up Joan, if Rosemary brings up Joan, if they hear about this film, they all remember where they were when it happened, and it really traumatized them. And they traumatized the community to this day. And so, and Rosemary's done a wonderful job keeping Joan's legacy alive in that regard.
So let's end by telling you about on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. You can't come, but it's very interesting because it involves Rocks for Sale. We have Young Voices, which is kids, high school and middle schoolers come right here. Last year we had 300 kids in 2 workshops. On this Wednesday, I don't know, I've heard over 100, 150, and I do a filmmakers workshop. And there's always with the kids, and I get them to stand up and film and do different things. And we always show a film. And this year, it's Rocks for Sale. So, thank you all for coming. Go see the other films.